What's up YouTube? Welcome to the official pre-expansion Mythic Plus tier list in Midnight. As always, my name is Petko, and for the past couple of months we have been heavily testing every single spec in class on beta and alpha, and this is going to be a conclusion of everything we've done so far, a summary, and as always my opinion at the end of the day of how each spec performs compared to another. Now, a huge disclaimer: there might be a few more rounds of changes coming in before the season comes out, because season comes out in the middle of March, and right now we are at the final week of February, so there's possibly still gonna be at least once or twice class tuning, and if there are any, I'll make sure to update you, but this should be the official pre-expansion update. Anyway, stay tuned, enjoy, and as always, make sure to like the video and let me know down in the comments below if you agree with what I just said or not. Iron's Warrior has been taking the cake for the worst spec for the past couple of months, and they have achieved its own unique award for being the worst DPS for so many weeks in a row, and quite recently they've also got a nerf on top of that. Sustained damage of Iron's Warrior is likely the only good thing about the spec. Everything else is just beyond horseshit. From single target to burst damage, you name it, ain't looking good. And Midnight Warrior in general has been getting more utility, Fury Warrior, Arms and Protection Warrior, but for the most part, it doesn't matter what kind of utility you have or how tanky you are, or if you have Battle Shout, if you do negative damage. So for that reason, we are putting Iron's Warrior as currently the worst spec on Midnight. I present you BM Hunter as the second worst spec in this game, and an absolute shambles of a state. The single target, just like Iron's Warrior, is absolutely atrocious, and the only thing that this BM Hunter has over Iron's Warrior is actually getting a lot better AoE damage. Specifically, burst damage to be exact on BM Hunter is a lot better compared to Warrior. So at least if you do play your average level keys, you're gonna have burst every 30 seconds with Bestial Rat, and you're gonna do decent AoE damage, but consider on single target to do a little bit higher than tank damage. Unfortunately for a lot of you, that's gonna be the reality for Beast Mastery Hunters. But if I gotta be honest, they're probably gonna buff them because they never ever leave BM Hunter unplayable. So don't worry about it. It's still going to be considered the worst killer so far on Midnight. Several reasons that is because the way of healing of Retribution Evoker is just bad. Mana issues at times exist still, even though they did better job at doing so. I think the healing can also be a questionable if you have no cooldowns compared to the rest of the healers. That's going to be the biggest drawback of having Preservation Evoker, and I believe this spec to be extremely good in rate, but quite decent, like quite poorly designed for Mythic Plus as of now speaking. So for that reason, I say they are still in the C tier. Now, there are several reasons why I believe Assassination Rogue goes to the B tier, and it has absolutely nothing to do with energy starvation or energy pulling. This spec, if you are a beginner player, even advanced player, is likely gonna result in you being absolutely disastrous performance. The way that Assassination Rogue plays is horrible, absolutely horrible in Mythic Plus, and by the time you ramp up with your damage dots, most of the pack is already gone. Okay, for the highest of the highest level keys, Assassination Rogue can definitely do better, but right now, considering all key levels, I would definitely not recommend you to do that. And if somebody in the chat is an expert Assassination Rogue player, theory crafter, rank 1 multi-class Leo Messi half brother, please welcome to the beta. I welcome you with open hands. I'm gonna play with you so you can show us how good Assassination Rogue is, okay? If there's anybody in this chat, please go ahead. But for the 99.9% of all of you, Assassination Rogue would definitely suck donkey balls, and I would definitely not recommend you guys getting to play this unless, once again, you know what you're doing, you have a lot of experience behind it, and you're definitely familiar with the dungeons and everything else. So that's why I believe Assassination Rogue. That's why I believe Assassination Rogue to be. Even though Assassination Rogue actually got buffed 3 times in a row. 3 times in a row they got buffed. So kind of a question mark here. With my utmost pleasure, I announce you a Retribution Paladin is still on a B tier even after the most recent buff they received last week. I believe the playstyle of Retribution Paladin, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad one, but the tuning is definitely horrendous. If there's one thing I would love to get Retribution Paladin to be, is just to do more damage. Even if you don't rework Retribution Paladin, I think at this point what they need is just plus 5 to 10% aura buff for Retribution Paladin to view to be decent. I think that's what I would like to see. 5 to 10% aura buff on Retribution Paladin, and anything less than this wouldn't really result in a changes to the tier list. Outlaw Rogue chat. Unfortunately for every single Rogue enjoyer in the chat, including myself, Outlaw is not doing that good. The tuning of Outlaw is just off everywhere. Whether you're playing Raiding or Mythic Plus, the tuning is off. It plays good, but it just does no numbers. Absolutely no numbers. I propose the following solution for Outlaw Rogue. You can aura buff every single spell of Outlaw Rogue and nerf Blade Flurry. This way, the AoE might remain the same or slightly buffed, and the single target to be better. The single target is likely the biggest drawback so far for them, and it's very unfortunate because I actually quite like the spec, personally. Boys, right next to Outlaw Hunter, with utmost pleasure I announce you and introduce you to Marksmanship Hunter. Another L for Hunters, by the way, another L for Hunters. Hunters so far this expansion has been getting L after L after L. The design of Hunter is likely the worst one I've seen throughout the entire history of Hunters, and it's quite a shame going from Legion to Midnight Absolutely disgusting design. Disgusting design. Super bad. Sleeper boarding. Quite heavily consistent on cooldowns. Sustained damage super low. Single target non-existent. I mean, at least you are becoming more tanky in Midnight, or in general you're becoming more tanky compared to most of the specs, which is fine. And Hunter's Mark also got improved in Midnight. Now it just gives you a flat 30% more damage, which actually is pretty good. But for the most part, without those, I don't even understand why got nerfed, but got nerfed quite heavily 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, hence why their placement in a bit here. Right after Hunter is going to be Windwalker Monk, or aka the Glass Cannon. So far, unfortunately, with the most recent update on Windwalker Monk, even though a lot of you was hoping that Monk is gonna get buffed, Conduit Windwalker got nerfed and Shadowpan got buffed, which made Shadowpan to be the default Mythic Plus build everywhere in all key levels. So what happened with Monk is like they've tried to add them a little bit more AoE damage and a bit more sustained damage while nerfing the ST a bit, or making it a little bit more considerate. Which in other words translates to Monk to be at most average pickup. And if you're not an exceptional Monk player, I would just say skip to the next part, especially given the fact how dominant Brewmaster Monk is right now. The plays for Monks are becoming less relevant as we progress through the season, the days into the season. Because if Brewmaster really becomes the best tank, and there is a chance of that speaking, by the way, the placement for Monks are just gone at this point, which is quite sad, honestly, because I really like the Monk gameplay. But I gotta be honest with you guys. I gotta be honest. That's why I'm honest. Destruction Warlock. First of all, I'd like to say this: the newest build on Destruction Warlock, which I guess not really new, but new if you are playing right now in Midnight. The Chaos Bolt build, which completely ignores Rain of Fire, is actually quite fun to play. And they did attempt several times to buff this single target, but I gotta be honest with you, so far, the biggest L on Destruction Warlock is weak single target, and your Capstone Talents to be absolutely useless. Those are the two things on Deathstroke that is just bad. The AoE part is good, has a burst AoE, has a good sustained damage, but the single target is just atrocious. Okay, now if that spec gets to be buffed on ST, I'm more than happy to place it higher, but for now, if I gotta compare the rest of the specs, you know, it's there. Unfortunately, it's there. Unfortunately for all of the enjoyers of DK, Frost DK goes to the B tier chat. Frost Decay to the B tier. Several reasons of that. Mostly because of their atrocious single target. That's it. The AoE part of Frost Decay is doing pretty good. But the single target, just like Destrolock, it is just not doing that good. It is just not doing that good. The 2 target is horrible as well. Pretty much anytime you fight 4+ mobs on Frost Decay, you'll be fine. But anytime you fight 1-2 targets, it's just not looking that great after the most recent changes to them. Unfortunately, compared to the rest of the specs, no bueno. I believe Blood Decay is still going to be the worst tank so far. But I gotta let you guys know something, okay? Blood Decay, even though it's the worst tank, it's actually doing a lot better from the War Within to Midnight. And any tank right now in this game is absolutely capable of doing great keys. Even title keys, okay? The difference between the tanks is not as big compared to before. They did try their best to buff every single tank so far. And especially Blood Decay, I can guarantee you, the damage on Blood Decay is doing pretty well. It is just the defensive part that I don't think is compatible against other tanks. That is why I believe Blood Decay, for this exact reason, is going to be B tier. Well, the fact that you also don't have a raid buff, obviously it's not a thing, okay? So I'm ranking Discipline Priest, I'm ranking a Restoration Shaman, and I'm ranking also Holy Priest to be healers of A tier right now. Unfortunately, there are a few things that I like to mention here. First of all, Holy Priest is likely one of the healers with the highest damage so far in the game, which is a huge advantage. The AoE heals of Holy Priest has definitely been their biggest struggle for the most part, but I think the parallel target heals / focus heal is doing pretty well. I think for the most part, for the average level keys, Holy Priest might be actually one of the best so far to do it, just because of the damage output. Definitely one of the highest output. Restoration Shaman, on the other hand, the biggest weakness so far in Restoration Shaman has been also AoE healing. AoE healing is just been a disadvantage for them, but everything else has been pretty good. The biggest thing about the Restoration Shaman is that you can play this in a physical comp. So a physical comp being actually good, a Resto Shaman can get a higher placement, okay? Just because of this, of your Wind Fury or Sky Fury. Sky Fury is absolutely essential piece when it comes down to having a physical comp, just because of the damage that gives them. So if that is the case, the Restoration Shaman goes a tier higher. But if you put the Restoration Shaman in any other comp outside of physical comp, I think A tier performer is actually going to be just the average for them. And Disc Priest, honestly, the HPS so far is it just looks to be the biggest problem. Whether I think sustain the HPS of Disc Priest is like the biggest issue, which I think is important for Mythic Plus to be able to heal, effectively, to have good sustained damage. Sub Rogue goes to the bottom of A tier. Now, a lot of things I can say about Sub Rogue. The biggest advantage so far of that spec is actually the front burst damage. Like front load burst damage being good, sustained damage being good, and the only thing that I don't like about Sub Rogue so far is just the single target. I guess the single target is one thing, but also the pariah target. Now, Sub Rogue historically has been the funnel king, which in some sense it still is if you sacrifice all of your AoE. But right now, to play Sub to the best ability you can, your pariah target / ST while doing AoE is pretty much non-existent. Well, I guess if you play Trickster, you still Coup de Grace Eviscerate once you get it. But for the most part, you'll be just focusing on a Shuriken Storm and Black Powder. For the most part, you know. Hence why there is no existential pariah target healing. Pariah target damage. The funnel damage is just... I mean, you can have funnel, but you just lose all of the AoE. And you don't have a raid buff, you just have a 3.6% damage reduction poison, which again, a lot of you don't like to say this. But it's just not really a buff to the party. Yeah, that's what I just said, Nate. You can sacrifice You can sacrifice that, but you lose every single AoE. You can ask somebody in this chat. Okay, chat, let me ask you a question. Every single rogue main in the chat, every single rogue main, I want you to hear what I have to say. If you're playing sub rogue, I want you to answer this honestly. If you play sub rogue and there are 8 mobs, would you press black powder on those 8 mobs during cooldowns, or would you press eviscerate? Be honest. I would never in a million years press eviscerate. Never. Never. Even if my team wipes, I don't give a shit. I am pressing black powder until the end. Even if my healer is dead and I know the pool is gone, I don't give a bollocks. I'm spamming that button like there is no tomorrow. That's what's up. I am establishing my dominance in that group. 100%. And if we wipe, so it is. So it is, ladies and gentlemen. You actually patter. I am patter, boys. You guys are right. I am a filthy, dirty patter. And I admit it. Anyway, moving forward, boys and girls. Hunters are getting L after L survival, dropping the ranks from A+ tier all the way down to A, following their most recent nerfs, on top of the bug fixes which impacted negatively to them. RIP to the king. Survival goes down, chat. So here it is. The best performing hunter spec is at most right now average compared to the rest of the specs, which is most definitely not ideal. Now, what does that mean for the mass amount of people? You're still gonna be fine playing hunter for like all content, but the moment you start playing high level keys and title keys, instead of playing hunter, you're gonna be playing simulation craft. You'll be waiting until people give you an invite in LFG, and only if you have done all the keys in that level, and if they feel like inviting you, they will. Other than that, ain't looking good, chat. It's Enhanced Shaman remaining on the same spot for the past couple of weeks as they were. Absolutely no changes done to Enhanced Shaman, and they still remain an average spec. Good burst damage, sustain damage, amazing utility, and if I have to include every single thing they provide to the whole party, you're probably gonna end up in A+ tier. But for the sake of your own personal damage, and not actually including that into the equation, I would say for the most part, you are gonna remain average. But keep in mind that Sky Fury, just putting Sky Fury into the mix of Enhanced Shaman, the Sky Fury itself makes that button better than Sub Rogue and Survival Hunter combined together. Just the word Sky Fury combined together makes it already better than the whole toolkit of Survival and Sub Rogue combined together. That's how good Sky Fury is on Shaman. And I'm not even kidding, by the way. I'm not even kidding. Sky Fury is broken. Broken. Fury Warrior. Well, I guess the buff part is not true. They got nerfed 2 weeks ago. So it's not true. But if I gotta be honest here, Fury Warrior began at like A+, then they got nerfed, and now they end up being A tier. I would like to apologize. Fury Warrior did not get buffed. They got nerfed. Okay? Not buffed, sorry. What can I say about Fury? So Fury AoE part is still good. For the most part, Fury AoE is still gonna be good, especially given the fact how good Brewmaster is. Fury Warrior has a absolute must spot in a physical comp. Okay? Which means, even if you're horrendous, you are still going to be invited. The single target so far of Fury is likely where I believe they just need slightly more adjustments. But other than this, you're tanky, you got battle shout, you got good sustain AoE damage, you got a good burst AoE damage, and ST just being mediocre slash like average. So if there's one way to change Fury Warrior, I would just say just give them more single target for the most part. That would do the trick for them, I would say. Yeah, I think that's fair enough for them. Even though Havoc is ranked right now in the A tier, I believe they've actually grew tremendously compared to how they were early into the beta. The most recent buffs were not only 5% buff, but they've also got a bug fixes, which definitely help them to be better. Now, there are still bugs on Havoc that are annoying to play around, most specifically Glaive Tempest. I think Glaive Tempest is something that it just will get fixed in the next couple of days. So if there is something for me to want more from Havoc, is just overall more buffs. I think the AoE part of Havoc is already good enough. The ST part is just an area where I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more buffed, you know. That's about it. So you don't play out Drake anymore, you just play Felscar for the most part. And I don't think you are horrible, I think you're just above average. Feral Druid is gonna be ending on the top of A tier. A lot of people are underestimating Feral Druids, and I'm here to prove you guys wrong. I think Feral Druid actually is quite strong in AoE. Sustain AoE, burst AoE, proud target as well. Feral has it all. Good utility, quite tanky, and the only thing that Feral does not have is single target. If Feral gets a single target buff, I'm gonna be the first person to say this, just like I've always been truthful to you. Feral will make it to the physical comp in Mythic Plus. If Feral gets another buff on single target, you will become the staple must be invited in with Brewmasters. You will play Brew, Feral, likely Fury Warrior, and anything else after that. It is gonna be Affliction Warlock. Affliction Warlock goes right next to Feral Druid. Following their most recent nerfs on Afterlock, I believe their placement has gone downwards, specifically when it comes down to both AoE and ST. I still think you are top of the A tier. Unfortunately, with the rest of the specs, I think you are more of an A tier performer than A plus tier. And on top of this, given the fact how strong Destrolock is, Demonology is, I'll be honest with you, you're never gonna be playing Affli anyway. You guys are crying like Affli, why is Affli A tier? And you guys deep inside know that you will never ever play Affliction over Demo anyway. So why does it matter? That's like crying about Affliction being on top of the A tier. It's like having, okay, imagine having a Bugatti, a Lamborghini, and a fucking Go 4. And somebody comes and tells you that Go 4 is shit, and you start to cry about it. Brother, you still have the Lambo in a garage. The Demonology, the Lambo. What does it matter if Affliction is A tier? Doesn't matter when you have one of the specs being absolutely horrendously broken. You know, beyond broken. So that's about it. I believe with my whole heart, Shadow Priest, it is not gonna be A plus tier worthy. They'll go to A tier. The top of the A tier is what I believe Shadow Priest is at most. At most. The only question here comes from the level of keys you are playing. Perhaps on the highest with the highest keys, Shadow can do better, especially when it comes down to sustained damage. But I don't think the single target of Shadow Priest is competitive enough to be placed in A plus tier, especially against the rest of the people there. Sadly, that is the case. But it most definitely is not a bad pick. I believe it will still do fine with it. And if you do play in a caster comp, which right now it is to be dominant, I'm talking about mages and warlocks, etc., then Shadow Priest has all the utility to be invited there. PI, stamina, you benefit from Arcane Intellect, you benefit from Oak Evoker as well. You sync 2 minutes with PI as well. So I think it's not a terrible pick. I think it is quite good. Frost Mage. Frost Mage is the best mage spec in the A tier, but the worst mage spec overall. Now, yes, they've been getting nerfs after nerfs, but I still believe Frost to be an absolute peak pick, especially if you do play low to mid level keys. On the highest level keys, you'll be switching to something else, but for the most part, Frost is still going to be decent. Great defensively, good sustained damage, good burst damage, better AoE damage. Yeah, I think for the most part, it's going to be Frost all the way. Brewmaster Monk and Guardian Druid. Now, Brewmaster Monk to be the best tank is because several reasons. First of all, damage-wise, Brewmaster Monk is insane. Super high damage, the tankiest tank on beta. Those are the two primary factors of why Brew is to be good. Unfortunately, Brewmaster doesn't sync well with all caster comps. But that doesn't matter. If you are already tanky enough and do good damage, that's what matters. Okay? And the reason why Guardian is also considered possible meta tank is because, well, first of all, the damage on Guardian is the best across all tanks. Like, literally, Guardian Druid does, like, the highest single target, even higher single target than most of the specs in bit tier. I even can argue that those specs on bit tier, most of them will lose overall against good Guardian Druids. Or at least, on a single target, Guardians will do better. It is currently the most broken spec as a damage on beta. Defensively, I'm not sure who is tankier defensively. Whether Guardian is weaker than Brewmaster defensively. I'm gonna bet on Brew right now to be tankier than Guardian. But Guardian has a better raid buff. The problem with that raid buff is that Restoration Druid is still considered the best healer in Mythic Plus. So they're competing for the Mark of the Wild bearer in the chat, you know? So if you do play Restoration Druid, you might don't want to play Guardian. Unless Guardian is so broken to the point where you don't care about overlapping party buffs, you just want to go with both of them. So that's why I have a confusion. And if you play Guardian Druid and you don't want to play with the Restoration Druid, the second best healer in my opinion so far is going to be Holy Paladin. So here is the concept, here is the answer. You play Guardian, you play Holy Paladin. You play Brewmaster Monk, you play Restoration Druid. I think that's where you're gonna go, in my opinion, with that shit so far. Why Holy Paladin? First of all, Holy Paladin is absolutely great. You still have great HPS profile. The DPS part is not as broken compared to the Holy Priest, but I believe the utility is better than Holy Priest. The utility part is just crazy good. Also, immunity spec, which is important for high Mythic Plus as well. I think the Wind Fury is still better for the most of the group, but I think Holy Paladin, given the chance to shine, it's gonna prove a lot of people wrong, because I still think to be an absolute pinnacle aspect. So shout out to Holy Paladins. I love Holy Paladins to be meta, because I'll be honest with you, so far every single Holy Paladin main has never ever disappointed me. Any kid that I've played the last couple of seasons, even though Holy Paladin wasn't meta, they've always played well. So every time Holy Paladin becomes meta, I'm actually quite happy, because I have always good experience playing with Holy Paladins. And why not? Short sack, AM, Devotion Aura, right? Perma DR, which is important. Lay on Hands, Freedoms, and all kind of poison, disease spells, and all kind of bullshit they can save you from. I mean, who doesn't like to play with Holy Paladin? So that's about it. Okay. Speaking about the rest of the tanks on an A+ tier so far, I have a few more options left for you. The first one is going to be Vengeance DH, and then it's going to be Protection Paladin. And the reason why that is so far is because Vengeance DH still does great output and is quite tanky defensively, even though they still have a few bugs unresolved. I'm sure once they do so, they will be just fine, but not better than Brew or Guardian. Also, Vengeance plays the best with Magical Comp, which right now are the current best specs in the world, and has an amazing mob control, much better mob control than Guardian, Druid, and Brewmaster. I guess the only other tank that has better mob control is going to be Protection Paladin, but for the most part, Protection Paladin is weaker defensively than both Brewmaster and Guardian Druid. So if you do play average level keys where it doesn't matter to be the tankiest tank, then Protection Paladin is likely going to be the default spec for most of it. The utility, the mob control, the high damage output, the burst damage, I mean, like, Protection Paladin is great. But defensively, it's not the strongest, and therefore on the highest level keys is going to fall out compared to the rest of the tanks. That's what I think about those two specs. We're placing Protection Warrior as an A tier performer because I believe that you're better than Blood DK but you're not better than Brew or Guardian Druid. I think an average slash above average performer so far, which is still super good choice because you are good defensively compared to Blood DK, and damage wise just an average damage profile. That's about it. And speaking about Mistweaver, I think Mistweaver to be the third best healer so far in Mythic Plus. I don't think you are better than Paladin. I don't think you should be in the same tier as Paladin. I think I'm gonna place you here in the upper echelon of the A tier. Definitely better than the rest of them. The HPS profile on Mistweaver definitely feels better. Mana issues at times still exist, but for the most part, HPS is gonna be the biggest argument to play with Mistweaver right now. Unfortunately, just like with Windwalker Monk, if Brew ends up being the best tank in the game, you might have a difficult time finding groups. But overall, good HPS. Utility on Mistweaver is just not as good compared to the rest of the specs. But at least the healing part is great. AoE heals is good. Para heals is good. Cocoon is dog shit, but whatever. I guess there are pros and cons playing Mistweaver compared to the rest of the specs, but can't deny how strong it is. That's all. It is going to be the chicken. Now, I would like to clear something quite contrary to what every single person and Boomman is saying. I would like you to hear this from me firsthand. Every single balanced druid right now is absolutely sandbagging their performance in Mythic Plus. Don't let you guys fool you. Balanced druid is still to be doing quite well in Mythic Plus. They don't look to be meta, but they most definitely don't look to be horrendous. And no, their single target is not as bad as some of the other specs. So please, do not say to me that Balanced Druid is absolute log shit. They have been getting 3 buffs in the row. It doesn't matter if you play big pool, smoke pool, single target, etc. Balance still does damage, okay? Balance still does damage, and it's not the worst spec in this game, okay? I'm gonna say this. The only way that balance gets to be higher is if they actually get more single target. Status Surge right now is underperforming. Status Surge needs to get some healthy buffs their way. Maybe like 20% buff on Status Surge. I don't give a shit. Just anything to make them do better, okay? But do not let the chickens fool you. They don't do that bad. They don't do that bad, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be Devastation Evoker. Once the King, now the Joker. They went down to A+ tier with the most recent nerfs. And although there's a new build that plays Scale Commander, now before every single Devastation Evoker main, and I mean like the 5 people that made the spec, come to me. Yes, Scale Commander, yes, I've played it. Yes, it still, in my opinion, plays more weird than Flame Shaper. And for the most part, you can argue back and forth saying that it's better. And even if it's better, I don't give a shit. Flame Shaper to me plays better. The single target difference is definitely noticeable. I believe the Scale Commander does better ST, undeniably. But the AoE part of Flame Shaper is just better and more front load burst compared to the Scale. But nonetheless, Scale still does well. If you play average level keys, I definitely do not recommend you to play Augmentation. You play Devastation. Low, mid-level keys, up to like title level keys, I believe Def to be better. As soon as you start playing those keys and higher, then I think Oak just gonna take the cake so far. Fire Mage is nowhere near the S tier, and I believe that spec to be on A+ tier. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but you are getting absolutely baited by Fire Mage. I advise you, if your name is not fucking I'm fired up and you're a top mage, your performance on fire would be worse than me playing with my right nail on the foot as a BM hunter. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you that, bro. 100% on God. Like on the extreme high level keys, Fire Mage would actually do quite well because he got combustion for every single pack. But the moment you don't have combustion, I would rather take a second tank. Still, undeniably, during cooldowns, it does insane damage, but it's all pad. You have 0 prio, all pad damage, 0 prio. Or I guess You can say here that, okay, but Fire Blast is prio. Okay, sure, bro. Fire Blast is a big prio damage. You know, wow. Insane, you know what I mean? Sure, I mean, there is some kind of prio, right? But for the most part, you are going to be just purely AoE slapping. That's about it, okay? That's about it, chat. Stormbringer single target looks to be a lot better. Sustained damage looks to be better. Burst damage is crazy good. High utility of the spec as well. I believe Ellie to be a very good performer. Sadly, not a meta performer, but a very good performer. And I guarantee you, whoever calls this scope, you will see throughout the season, you are gonna see Ellie doing well. It might not be meta, but it's gonna be most definitely above average. I guarantee you that. And not only this, but they will do also fine in all key levels compared to Fire. Like low, mid, high keys, I think Ellie's gonna do fine. The only thing that I don't like about Ellie is that you're squishy. That's it. That's like the only thing I don't like about Ellie. I guess, okay, I guess the spread target damage is bad too. If you do play like council fight and there's like 2 mobs here and 1 mob is in like China, I mean, sure, that's bad, but that's for the most specs too, so whatever. The defensive part on Ellie is like the biggest disadvantage. So yeah, that's about it. I agree, by the way. I agree with every single person in this chat. Augmentation belongs to the dog tier. They're actually dog tier. But for the sake of this tier list and concluding it, I gotta say this. Augmentation is likely the most stupidly broken design spec in Midnight Season 1 so far. And even though you might not see augmentation being played for like average level keys, on the highest or the highest level keys, augmentation is going to be an absolutely must pick so far, especially after the most recent tuning and nerfing on all of the OP specs. So verdict is here, Oak is still great, Oak is still going to be played most of the time. But to say that Arcane Mage belongs to the C tier or upper B tier is absolutely cope. I think Arcane is still to be the best mage spec so far in Mythic Plus. From design point of view, from playstyle point of view, and for the most part from tuning as well. Now there are some dungeons and some key level ranges where Arcane can do worse than Fire, and Fire can do better. But for the most part, I think Arcane is still going to be quite strong pickup. The single target is the only thing that I don't think is good enough to be placed in S tier. Unfortunately, not really. I think Unholy DK is by far the best spec as a melee in the game. And even though you got recently nerfed, the best build suddenly got nerfed, I still think this to be an absolutely peak melee so far. The tankiest spec in the game, most definitely, even though no raid buff. Huge single target, huge burst damage, good sustained damage. I don't think numbers wise you're looking to be S tier worthy, at least in overall Mythic Plus score. But most definitely top 5 spec in the game right now, which is obviously good because no other melee comes close to you, which means you'll be getting the priority in invites. I'm gonna say this, for me, the crown king so far in Midnight Mythic Plus beta has been Demonology Warlock. Demonology Warlock is unfortunately a spec that I'm fairly certain it will get nerfed again before the expansion, before the season release. Their single target to be the best in the game so far in Mythic Plus. Sustained damage to be the best one so far in Mythic Plus. Burst damage also quite good, strong defensively speaking. So Demolock going to be an absolute peak spec unless it gets nerfed. And I'm very confident because of the raid performance as well. I am uncertain how many people played Demonology yourself, but you will see Demon's gonna get nerfed again. But very, very strong right now. So I'm happy about that one. Utility got better. Yeah, you have now 2 interrupts. You got a new set of utility toolkit, which obviously every single lock has it. So that's about it. Demolock doing pretty well. Big W for Demolock. And last but not least, Devourer DH. Everybody knows Devourer DH is a spec that I've been quite frank on, even though it's frustrating to play for the most part. The power to Devourer are really good. Sustained damage is likely the best in the game so far. You measure cooldowns every 30 to 40 seconds, sometimes lower. You sync well with the magical comp. You, for the most part, have the ability to be a pseudo-support spec as well, because you can help your teams a lot by stopping, interrupting, etc. Super tank spec as well, just like Havoc. And I feel like you're the glue if you don't play Vengeance DH, because you can benefit from Chaos Brand a lot, you know. So things like Mage, Devourer, and Demonology can sync well together, because short interrupt from Devourer, quite tanky, a lot of stops as well, fear, stun, etc. I think this to be an amazing spec, even though it's frustrating to play. Hey guys, quick disclaimer, the section for Destrolog has been completely scrapped. This is the new file. We had Destrolog as a Diabolist build playing on the upper B tier. Unfortunately, I was made aware that there's a new build playing Hellcaller which plays Rain of Fire, and it does perform way better in AoE, although the single target still remains quite poor. I was testing it today for a couple of hours and it felt pretty good. The AoE was really good. I just couldn't really have enough information to judge whether they belong on the A tier or A+, but it's most definitely not a B tier performer. I'm going to be placing it in unsure yet. Once there are more class changes before the season, I'll make an update and rank it. Right now, if I gotta be honest, it's anywhere between A to A+, but the AoE looks to be really strong. I'm sorry for the confusion, just wanted to let you know. It is definitely better than the, I don't know, whatever about it. It's just the placement is unsure yet. That's all, chat. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, stay tuned. In case there are more class changes, I'll let you guys know. Peace out. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time. So that's about it, chat, so far. That's about it. This is the official pre-expansion update on the tier list. We can discuss it right now, but I am going to be letting you know that you are likely going to see at least 1 or 2 more rounds of changes. So nothing that we have discussed right now is going to be an absolute 100%. I am not sure if I will gather again on every Sunday. I think at this point, in 4 days, the expansion comes out. I might be able to gather you one more time, but if there are any updates to the tier list, I will make sure to make a video on YouTube about it.